Hi, do you want to learn how to make Southern style collard greens? If so, stay tuned and I'll share my recipe with you. Hi, it's Faylene. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing below. And if you're returning, thank you for watching. Today's episode is all about Southern style collard greens, and I'm going to show you step by step how to make some collard greens. And today I also have Chandler assisting me in the kitchen, learning how to do this recipe. So when he leaves my house at 18, he'll have this mastered and down pat. So let's get started. Okay, first let's get started with all the ingredients that we're going to use. We're going to go with the traditional batch of collard greens that you'll get in the grocery store, and I like to make sure I go with the ones that have the stems on them versus those in the bag. I just find that they're tastier for some reason.
The brand here, right here. Yeah. Always watch them. Don't forget. Don't forget there could be bugs in this.
So that's going to be our first step in this process, and then I'm going to show you some of the other ingredients. To wash the collard greens, I actually use my sink, and I'm going to take each green apart and soak it in the water. So let me show you how to do that.
Make sure you always wash your hands. It's a key tip to always cooking. You don't want to have dirty hands. And make sure if you're using an onion, you always make sure don't touch your eyes. Like, don't cook and then touch your eyes, and like make sure to always wash it off. And make sure when you put that water in there, you don't have any leftover residue. You want to have straight just water. Make sure you just want to have water. That's Chandler's tips.
Okay, let me walk you through how to actually take the greens and cut them and then put them in the water to soak. So you take the leafy green, and this is the vein that's in the green, and you want to make sure you fold it down, or you can cut it, and you peel the green from the vein all the way down, just like that. So you'll have the vein, and the vein is removed, and now you've got the green. So you actually want to take this green and lay this here, and repeat this process with all of the stems until you get to a nice amount of greens that you can roll up and cut, which I'll show you.
And the green, and this part right here absorbs all the water. So if you ever want to have a plant, make sure to put this part in the water. Fun facts with Chandler.
Thank you, Chandler. Okay, so now we have actually taken the stem off of several of the leaves. And you should have a nice little pile. Make sure your pile's not too much at first, because you need to be able to roll it and then cut it. So you take the pile and you roll it like so.
Roll.
A nice
like a sushi roll.
Yeah, like a sushi roll. And then take a sharp knife.
Be careful.
And I think you call this julienne, I think is the right term. But you take the knife and then you cut probably about a ½ inch for each green, and then I actually just slide it into my sink water
with
I'm right here. And this allows you to actually cut the greens up into small pieces, so when you're eating it, it's actually not too much for someone to chew, and it actually allows it to cook a lot faster when it's cut.
Smaller
so I've been doing this for a while, so no, I'm not going to tell them my age. That's not important. But I've been cooking since I was a teenager. My mother taught me everything I know about cooking.
She lived in a lot of places. She lived in Germany, New York, New Jersey, and now Georgia.
Okay.
And Florida.
Yes. So after I've cut the greens up, as you can see, they're nice little pieces. We dump them in the water, and we're going to let them soak in the water. I soak them in the water for about 30 minutes or so, maybe 30 minutes to an hour. And make sure that the greens get nicely cleaned. And you can tell if you have a batch of greens that are kind of dirty, because the water has a lot of dark greenness. But hopefully your batch won't be too dirty and you'll have pretty clear water. And Chandler is completely in the video, washing his hands as we go over these steps. It's all good. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I get started with my pot of water and my onions. Okay, let's move to step 2. Okay, now I usually cook with just one onion depending upon the batch. And I have this nice little nifty onion slicer that Chandler is displaying for you. So I'm going to cut this onion, I'm going to peel the skin off and put it in there and slice it. And then we're going to put it in the pot with our smoked turkey legs. Okay, can you put that down?
The brand is called Push.
They don't care about the brand.
You want to get sponsored.
Put it over there. So I usually cut the 2 ends of my onions. I chop them off to make it easier. And then I take my knife and I go down the middle.
Not very good.
And I peel it off just that one layer.
You don't want it to be too thick.
Can you throw this away for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Now, I don't really need to chop this finely because like I said, I have this nice little nifty onion chopper. So I'm just going to cut this into 4s. And I'm going to show you how I'll use my onion chopper. So I'll take a quarter of my onions and I just put it inside this little metal thing right here, and you push this down.
That's why it's called Push.
Yeah, you gotta use a little muscle.
I think it's done.
There you go. So when it snaps like this, and look, voila, the onions are pushed through.
I was trying to show them the little child.
Okay, so we're gonna do this with the rest of the quarters of the onions. And then I'm gonna take you over to my stove so I can show you how I put the water in there with the ham hocks. I hope you find this video very enjoyable because my son is having a blast.
Yeah! Hold up.
Okay, next I get a nice big pot because the greens will actually look like it's filling quite a bit. It actually will fill up this whole pot. So you want to make sure you have a very, very big pot. I'm actually going to just take about a cup of water. You don't need that much water. And this is where I actually saute the smoked turkey necks or smoked turkey tails. I try not to use ham products. My husband has high blood pressure, so I try to be sensitive to that. But you can get these in the grocery store. It's already prepackaged. They're already smoked. So I'm going to cook them probably for another hour, hour and a half in that water with the onions, and it's going to just fall off the bone. It's so delicious. So we're going to open up the pack of smoked turkey, and I just dump the whole thing,
guys,
inside the pot.
Let me tell y'all something. Before my mom started adding this chicken, I didn't usually like it.
It's smoked turkey.
But then when she added that, it was just like, you know, have you ever tasted like a little bit of heaven in somebody's food? That's what it tastes like.
Okay.
I'm not lying to y'all.
Thank you, Chandler. Let's get back to the recipe. So now I've got my chopped onions. I'm actually just going to take all of my onions and drop them into the pan. I'm going to put my lid on and give a little bit of space. You don't want it to boil over. I'm going to make sure I turn it down on low, and I'm going to set my timer to an hour and a half and let this saute. At the same time, my collard greens are rinsing and having a bath over there in the water. So by the time my greens are ready to be put in the pot, the meat will be nice and seasoned. Okay, see you later. Okay, it's been about an hour and a half, and the turkey necks and onions have sauteed pretty nicely. The meat is very, very tender. So now it's time for me to start putting the collard greens into the pot, and I do it in batches. So I'm going to go over to the sink and get some greens. So just kind of drain the water a little bit, and you literally take about this size of a batch and you drop it in. And my temperature is like on medium, and so don't mess with it. Kind of get enough so you have at least one even layer, and then we're going to season. another batch. And I'm gonna get one more batch. Okay, now what I do is I like to season every layer of my greens. I don't wait and season all at the end. That way they're very well seasoned throughout, and it just makes a difference to me. So I use a combination of a lot of different seasonings. So the good old faithful pepper and salt is a must for anything. So I just kind of make sure I sprinkle the pepper. Okay, so I'm gonna definitely go and finish seasoning. And I'm gonna do a layer of salt. Not too much salt, but just enough salt, just a little bit. Now, I love smoked paprika, and I do put this in my collard green recipe. So I'm just gonna do also a nice layer of paprika. And it's okay if you go a little heavy on the paprika because it's not really that hot and spicy, unlike my cayenne pepper. So I do put a little bit of cayenne pepper. Not too much, but a little bit. I like my green to have a kick. So, something that maybe others don't do as much, I actually put about a cup of sugar in my greens. So each layer gets a little bit of sugar at a time. This is also a nice little trick that I've learned over the years, and it helps my greens really pop. I also will put an entire stick of butter. Yes, I said it. An entire stick of butter in my one pot of greens. This also just makes it taste very buttery, glossy. It's delicious. This is something that not all folks will do, but I have found this recipe works great. So I will put the whole stick in. It doesn't matter which layer you put the stick in because it's going to melt and absorb throughout each. And earlier I showed some of the ingredients where I chopped up a jalapeno pepper. Yes, I do put one jalapeno pepper and just take the seeds out. So now I have one layer that's pretty well seasoned. I'll stir it just a little bit because this is the first layer, and at the bottom of my pot I actually have the smoked turkey necks. So I want to make sure the meat is no longer right at the bottom, but this first layer of greens. So I will make sure I blend this in really well. Now, I'm going to repeat this process probably about 3 more times and have at least 3 more good layers. And then you'll come back and I'll show you what I do next. So I'm going to take all of the turkey necks out of the pot and onto my cutting board so that I can shred the meat from the bone. And then I can take the shredded meat, and then I'm just going to dump it back into the pot. So I'm going to go ahead and shred all this meat and dump it back, and then I'll show you the final product. So now you can see the final product. A batch of Southern style collard greens. Faylene's way, that is. So there you have it. My Southern style collard green recipe that I make for my family over and over again, especially during Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing below if you haven't already. Hopefully these tips and suggestions are something that you might consider. And until my next video, see you later.